Good morning. The committee will now come to order. The chair recognizes himself for an opening statement. Today we mark up S710, the Hazardous Waste Electronic Manifest Establishment Act. A system for filing manifests electronically is more needed than ever. Testimony at our e-manifest hearing on June 21, 2012 confirmed electronic filing makes sense for users, federal and state regulators, first responders, and the public. Today, entities handling hazardous waste from the factory where it is generated to the final storage or disposal site must file multiple copies of paper manifests. These manifests are subsequently postal mailed to state regulators and back to the original waste generator. In the electronic age, the burdens and inefficiencies created by the existing system for both government and the private sector are real and must be addressed. In fact, EPA testified that the paper hazardous waste manifest burden is the most expensive burden EPA imposes under Subtitle C of RCRA. Besides the cost reduction for waste handlers, states, and the federal government, there are other key benefits to an e-manifest system. These include real-time access to critical public safety and security information for first responders, better tracking services for our citizens, improved data for informed policy decisions and public management, and greater accountability for how hazardous waste are transported and managed. I will offer an amendment in the nature of a substitute representing a bipartisan compromise to both improve the operation of the bill and to address issues unique to the House. I urge all members to support this amendment and report the bill favorably. I have some time left. Would the full committee chairman like to?
I would be delighted to take your time to finish up. Let me begin by thanking you, Mr. Waxman, Mr. Green, and their staff for the efforts to produce this bipartisan common sense bill. Companies that handle hazardous waste have long been required to submit manifest, detailed records of the type, volume, location of each container from the time it leaves the factory where it was generated to the final storage or disposal site. So this bill does not reduce that information requirement. It just makes it work better. With electronic filing, we will eliminate millions of paper copies and reduce expenses and labor. At the same time, the information will be far more accessible to first responders and others. Data retrieval will entail a few clicks on a keyboard instead of rummaging through file cabinets stuffed with paper copies. Your manager's amendment preserves the essential features of this bill while converting the bill from mandatory to discretionary spending in line with the House cut-go guidelines. So I would urge all of us to support it, and I yield back.
Gentleman yields back his time. The chair now recognizes the ranking member of the full committee, Mr. Waxman, for an opening statement. 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to thank you and Mr. Upton for working closely with Ranking Member Green and myself over the last week on this legislation. That work has paid off. I'm pleased to support the chairman's amendment in the nature of a substitute, which we'll consider shortly. And I believe with that amendment, the bill has a high likelihood of being acceptable all the way to the President's desk and his signature. Today, we take a step forward towards modernizing the tracking system for hazardous waste shipments in this country. The goals of these efforts are to reduce burdens, save money, and improve data quality. I have a regular statement, a further statement, and I just assume put it in the record, that it be available to anybody who wants to review it. And I ask unanimous consent the rest of my statement.
Without objections, so ordered. Gentleman, yield back his time.
I do.
Thank you. Members are reminded that all members' opening statements are made part of the record pursuant to committee rules or their further opening statements. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Mississippi.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The subcommittee is meeting today to mark up a bill that aims to bring the process of hazardous waste management and disposal into the 21st century. The current manifest system required by the Solid Waste Disposal Act is outdated and in need of an overhaul. Currently, the manifest system creates an unbelievable amount of paperwork which could be simplified by having this electronic system. The Environmental Protection Agency estimates that anywhere between $193 and $400 million are spent annually to keep up with the requirements of a paper-based tracking system. That's a lot of money spent by states and private entities that could be put back into the economy if an electronic manifest system were to be implemented. In a time when we're looking for ways to reduce overly burdensome regulation on American businesses, I believe that an electronic manifest makes sense. I appreciate the chairman holding a hearing recently to discuss this issue, and I'm glad to know that our colleagues in the Senate are interested in this issue as well. I hope that we will adopt the amendment in the nature of a substitute today, and that we can move forward with this common sense idea that will save money and make life a little easier by bringing the manifest system up to date. Thank you, and I yield back.
The gentleman yields back his time. Are there further opening statements? Seeing none, the chair calls up S-710 and asks the clerk to report.
S-710, to amend the Solid Waste Disposal Act to direct the Administrator of the Environmental Protection Agency to establish a hazardous waste electronic manifest system.
Without objection, the first reading of the bill is dispensed with, and the bill will be open for amendment at any point. So ordered. The chair recognizes himself for the purpose of offering an amendment in the nature of the substitute. The clerk will report the amendment.
Amendment in the nature of a substitute to S-710 offered by Mr. Shimkus of Illinois.
Without objection, the reading of the amendment is dispensed with, and the chair recognizes himself for 5 minutes in support of the amendment. Our amendment preserves the purpose of S-710. The text of this amendment was negotiated between the majority and minority staff of the committee with input from the regulated stakeholder community, the Congressional Budget Office, and other interested parties. Especially important was the excellent work by our House Legislative Counsel, Tim Brown, who helped us through some complex drafting challenges. First, the amendment makes all funding for the creation of the electronic manifest system discretionary, making fees collected from manifest users subject to appropriations for activities required under this section. In contrast, S-710 created mandatory spending of collected fees for use on the program. This change should provide for greater congressional oversight of the contract and activities related to the manifest system, as well as address House budget protocols. Second, the amendment simplifies the contracting provisions in legislation. The Senate bill relied on a procedure known as share in savings, that which would require the winning contractor to front the cost of the system, billed for recoupment from later fees. The legislative language implementing this arrangement was very complex and was difficult to score and understand. The amendment in nature of a substitute provides for contracting of the system, but strikes provisions in S-710 related to share in savings. In this way, the amendment makes the bill silent on the type of contract that should be awarded, so long as it is a high-value contract meeting the needs of the regulators and the regulated communities. Third, because of the change I just mentioned, the amendment in nature of substitute authorized appropriations of $2 million for each fiscal year of 2013 to 2015 for startup activities. These startup costs are offset through the collection of user fees, resulting in no net change in the amount of funds available under the bill and fully offsetting all spending created by the bill over a 10-year period. Finally, the amendment in nature of a substitute requires adjustments in the user fee level are made such that the fee charged by the administrator of the EPA is both sufficient and not more than reasonably necessary to cover current and projected system related cost. This ensures EPA has enough revenue to properly execute the contract and operate the system, but also protects the system users both from being overcharged by the EPA as well as having collected user fees pile up without being used. I thank everyone who worked in a bipartisan fashion to hammer this language out, and I urge my colleagues to support the passage of this amendment. And with that, I yield back my time. Is there anyone else wishing time to speak on the amendment? Seeing none. If there's no further discussion, the vote occurs on the amendment in the nature of substitute. All those in favor shall signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the amendment is agreed to. Thank you.
I thought you forgot about it.
No, I'm confused. The question now occurs on favorable reporting S-710 as amended to the full committee. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is favorably reported. If we did this electronically, it'd be a lot easier. Without objection, staff is authorized to make technical and conforming changes to S-710. So ordered. Without objection, the subcommittee stands adjourned.
That was good.